What's up everybody, D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another Godzilla x Kong The New Empire News Roundup. That's right, in this video, we will be continuing our chronological journey through covering the development of Godzilla x Kong The New Empire by talking about events that happened in August of 2022. Guys, this is a rough one. Woof, I'm wiped out. I am so unorganized and exhausted and overwhelmed lately. It's fun stuff, man. And my ear's doing that thing that it does. You know that thing that it does where it makes me motion sick to even just sit in a chair? It's doing that thing again. But I'm gonna power through it. That just means I'm gonna try and make this one a little shorter than normal, which probably means this one will also be a long one. Yeah, let's get into it. There's some fun stuff to talk about. Starting out, I want to show off Frankie B. Washington's Godzilla vs. Jinshin Mushi art. It's fun to see first of all, some Godzilla Aftershock art. It's also fun to see some Muto Prime fan art. We don't really see much of that. And I really like the bloody take on this battle. I think it's a lot of fun. I think the art style is great. I love Frankie's art, and I think this is a super cool one. Do you guys remember those really iconic Godzilla vs. Kong fan arts? I mean, they were so iconic. I've used them a billion times in videos. Everybody's used them. Well, I finally found the source of them. It's an artist named Jonathan Opgenhafen, and he is an incredible artist. He's actually a CG artist and oftentimes a VFX director on movies. I found out that he was responsible for doing a lot of the VFX on Pacific Rim Uprising, and here he is doing these Godzilla vs. Kong fan arts. And these were fan arts. These weren't concept arts. A lot of the time he'll do concept arts for movies. These were just for fun. And they look incredible. I mean, it makes sense knowing that this is from an industry standard professional. That is why these look so good, because they really do look movie quality. They're incredible. But I'm just happy to find the source for these. I've used these art pieces a billion times, so I wanted to show them off. Speaking of things that I'm pretty sure I've shown off before, but I'll mention it again just because I couldn't find any in my archives. I couldn't find it that I have shown this off, so I'll bring it up again. Dope Pope, one of my favorite artists in the Godzilla community. He's an incredible guy, super nice, incredibly talented. Oh my god. He went on from doing fan art to getting an opportunity to work with Legendary directly to do some Titanus Tiamat concept art. Tiamat appeared in Godzilla Dominion, and we get to see some concept art from Dope Pope here. There's so much that I've linked down below. You can go check out the whole archive of this stuff on ArtStation. I just want to show off a couple of my favorite designs. And one thing that I've noticed in a lot of these concept arts is how very clearly Manda inspired Tiamat is. I never really realized that in the comic book Godzilla Dominion, but seeing it here, this is a very Manda inspired creature, and I love that. It just got this Godzilla love infused into it. I really like the bioluminescent takes on Tiamat. I think it's great. I think the final design they settled on was pretty cool too, but some of these have these little flourishes that I really love. I think Tiamat's an awesome Titan, and I would love to see him in live action, or her, sorry, it's a her. I'd love to see her in live action, especially with this weird cyclone ability that we see here in this concept art. I would love to see how that looks, because my brain's telling me that it would look very out of place in the Monsterverse, but the art is so cool that I'd be curious to see it anyways. All right, moving on from art, we've got some Godzilla vs. Kong stuff to cover. That's right, we're still covering Godzilla vs. Kong, and we will forever. I'm never done covering a movie. There's always stuff to talk about. According to Torrent Freak, Godzilla vs. Kong was the most pirated film of 2021, just showing that it had incredibly high interest and that it could have made more money if people were willing to pay for it. But I think it's kind of a badge of honor to be the #1 most pirated thing of a year. Speaking of a badge of honor, Godzilla made it onto the HBO Max artwork alongside Ben Tennyson. Now that is the wrong Ben Tennyson, but I'm just happy to see him up there. It's good to see Ben getting some representation. But anyways, yes, Godzilla's featured in this, and wow, it's just like looking at an ancient relic here. I mean, HBO Max, who would have thought that that would have died so fastly the way it did? There was a Godzilla vs. Kong trailer released by HBO Max. It had some fun Titan stats in it. It was just a compilation of stuff we had seen in the special features alongside a new re-edited trailer showing off that Godzilla vs. Kong was on that streaming service. Of course, it still is, sort of. It cycles on Max every once in a while, and that is what they go by now as Max. Speaking of Max and Warner Bros. And all of the drama, do you guys remember all the legal battles that happened between Legendary and Warner Bros. Over Godzilla vs. Kong and Dune because they were putting them all on HBO Max day and date without consulting Legendary? Well, that did have some final repercussions back last year, following Warner Bros. Cancellation of finished products such as Batgirl Will and Scooby-Doo, Legendary started eyeing a move away from Warner Bros. As distributor towards Sony. Now this would mark the second time this has happened in the MonsterVerse history. Basically, Legendary Studios is just a film finance studio. It means that they greenlight projects, they produce them on their own, they fund them, and then they sell them to a distributor who also forks in a little bit of money. In Legendary and Warner Bros. Case, it's 25% of the actual production costs for the film. And then this distributor distributes the movie, covers the marketing, the licensing, and all this stuff. Legendary owns the license to Godzilla. Warner Bros. Just sends it out into the theaters. Basically, Warner Bros. Has no creative control over the MonsterVerse. They might get final say in things like runtime, maybe, just because they are the ones distributing the movie, so maybe they get that kind of say, but most of the time Legendary is calling all of the shots and just dealing with Toho. Now this is the second time Legendary has strayed away from Warner Bros. In the history of the MonsterVerse. Legendary stopped distributing with Warner Bros. Back in 2014 and started distributing with Universal, which lasted all the way up until 2018. Now for those of you wondering, well wait a minute, the MonsterVerse was always distributed by Warner Bros. If it was distributed by Universal at the same time, how could this possibly be? Simply that's because Warner Bros. And Legendary kind of co-own the MonsterVerse. They kind of co-parent it together. It's their shared baby, and it will continue to be their shared baby. The MonsterVerse is not moving to Sony distribution. Sony is not touching the MonsterVerse. That is staying with Warner Bros. And Legendary. The two companies are still collaborating on it together, so for all of the people who are excited that maybe now is the time Zilla will finally enter the MonsterVerse. First of all, Sony does not own the trademarks for Zilla. That is back at Toho. Second of all, even though they do own the trademarks to the 1990 Godzilla movie, doesn't mean they can necessarily cross over the MonsterVerse without getting other permission and approval. Also, Legendary is the one who handles this stuff anyway, so it wouldn't be with Sony, so Legendary would still have to buy the rights from Sony for that character. And then finally, sorry guys, Legendary is not going to Sony for the MonsterVerse. They are staying with Warner Bros. Warner Bros. Is distributing Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. Alright, enjoy the rest of the video. Godzilla and Kong returned to World of Warships for their August 2022 update, marking the second time they appeared on that app. This was celebrated with some pretty awesome banner art, and that's cool. I think that the first crossover they did was neat, and it's cool to see they did it again. We also have some news on the DCX MonsterVerse Casino cabinet betting games. There's a breakdown of that I've got linked down below, so you can go check out details on it. It's got Godzilla, Kong, a monster wheel, bonuses, monster bet, whatever. It's also got a trailer for it, so you can kind of see it in action. I've talked a bit about all this stuff before, so I don't really have anything else to say on it. I just wanted to say that they did post a big public listing for it, so you can go check that out down below if you want to. Godzilla vs. Kong was nominated for the Best Science Fiction Film at the Saturn Awards, however I don't think it won. We got our first look at an unused Skull Island patch from Godzilla vs. Kong that was originally added by concept designer Anne Foley. Now this was cut from the movie, as they did cut the entire beginning sequence, which took place with Nathan Lind trying to have his original expedition to the Hollow Earth from Skull Island. These were supposed to be some Skull Island base camp patches that all of the Monarch workers who worked on Skull Island had. It's unknown if any of these actually appear in the Godzilla vs. Kong movie in the Skull Island headquarters when we see it for about 1 second. But what I will say is that even if it does, none of us have ever noticed it because they're not featured well enough for us to see them, meaning that this is our first real look at it. I think it's really neat. I'm actually kind of sad that it didn't make it into the movie because I think it's really cool looking, and it also would make for great merchandise. I would love to get that on a t-shirt. Speaking of Godzilla vs. Kong and things we never got to see before, we have some new behind the scenes photos from one of the deleted scenes from Godzilla vs. Kong. Now this is a deleted scene we've talked about quite a bit in the past, so I'm going to try and keep it brief here, but basically Team Kong entered one of the Hollow Earth tunnels underneath Kong's throne, and they entered a room with a giant Kong statue. This is where Gia sets her little doll on pretty much like a pedestal. Meanwhile, there are paintings of the original Great Titan War in the background featuring the Godzillas and the Kongs teaming up against a blue Godzilla who appears to be depicted with wings. Our new photos show Andrews and Gia entering the cave. Andrews looking around it. She seems to be in awe. I believe we see some maybe Apex people coming down into the cave with them. Looks like somebody's on the ground here. We'll talk a bit about that in a second. We also just see another photo of that giant Kong statue. That's really cool. And then we do see a photo from the monitor of what appears to be Andrews and Gia kneeling over somebody on the ground. Now, KDM teased that this is a woman character who was cut from the movie. It's entirely possible that this is somebody like Jessica Henwick's character who was supposed to have a lot of involvement in the film originally. Maybe she was supposed to die down here. I'm not sure. I, however, believe it might be Nathan Lind, considering there was a cut stunt scene with him where Gia and Andrews were trying to help him up in the throne room after a big explosion happened. This was reworked in the movie to the scene where Godzilla's blast comes up from the earth into the Hollow Earth. So I think that could be what we're seeing here, is a version of that where Lind is on the ground. I don't know. Could also be Jessica Henwick or somebody as well. Not sure. KDM didn't really say. But anyways, this is where the whole Space Godzilla and the MonsterVerse thing comes from. For those of you who don't know, we've talked a lot about that on the channel before. The last thing I'll say about it here is that I do find it fascinating fascinating that they put that mural up in action. It was supposed to be on screen in the movie, and they filmed this whole scene, and it was cut probably late into development. I'm not sure if this ever made it into the test screenings or anything like that, but this does seem to be one of the sequences that was a bit more fleshed out that got cut from the movie, which is the only reason they put any stock or credence into that Godzilla mural where Godzilla's and Kongs are fighting a blue Godzilla, simply because it was supposed to be on screen in this movie in the first place, which makes me think, well, Wingard was willing to commit to it at once, maybe he'll do something with it in the future. KDM teases Brazil in connection to Madison's conspiracy map from Godzilla vs. Kong. Now, of course, we do know that in Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, we will be going to Brazil, in Rio actually, where a monster attack will occur. We've seen a lot of footage of that, and we'll talk a bit more about that later in this video, but basically, he's just linking the fact that this was already supposed to be an important location in the MonsterVerse before, and it will be again. Now, technically, Madison's conspiracy board in Godzilla vs. Kong is one massive continuity error because it was pulling from the original draft of Godzilla vs. Kong that was not the movie we got, and here we can see that Godzilla was supposed to attack a confirmed Apex facility somewhere in the Brazilian area, specifically where Rio is at. So maybe they're just reworking the concepts from that original Godzilla vs. Kong script into this new movie. Probably it won't be Godzilla looking for Apex anymore, but it just seems like maybe something that Wingard was interested in developing. KDM teased that the Gold Coast rainforest will return in Godzilla vs. Kong: The New Empire. Now, these were shot in Queensland, Australia. These are very Skull Island-esque locations. If I had to guess, it would probably be used actually for the Hollow Earth, because Hollow Earth, of course, is what Skull Island was. Skull Island was Hollow Earth come to the surface, which means that I'm assuming this is just going to be used as the landscape for the Hollow Earth. It looks beautiful, but who knows? Maybe that could be the real Skull Island. We are supposed to go back to the real Skull Island in this movie as well, so who knows? KDM confirms another time skip. Why? I'm not sure, but we've got another 5-year time skip coming up. I guess the MonsterVerse really loves to never show us the aftermath and consequences of its actions. One potential reason they might have done a 5-year time skip is to A, explain away why some of our actors aren't returning, and B, explain away why Gia is so much dang older now. Of course, in real life, Kaylee Hoddle did age about 5 or 6 years between filming Godzilla vs. Kong and Godzilla x Kong, as they did shoot Godzilla vs. Kong all the way back in 2018 and 2019. KDM teases some plot details for Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, saying Kong defends Earth from creatures in his new home, while things happen above too. Obviously, in modern day, we know that the movie's going to deal with a big monkey down on the Hollow Earth. Kong is going to be fighting him while Godzilla deals with something up on the surface world. I will talk a bit more about that at the end of this video when the official plot synopsis for this movie was released, but for now, I'll just mention that. KDM also teases Rio's destruction in this new movie, which of course we have seen a lot of filming of. But specifically, he's teasing the destruction of Christ the Redeemer, which actually, it was pointed out in his comment section, has appeared in Godzilla: The Half-Century War already. There are new reveals of the beach filming scene during the Rio attack that was filmed in Queensland, Australia. We just have new photos of the drone they used to film this with, and then more photos of the beach itself. We also have additional set photos revealing the beach attack. These photos just show their little fruit stand or whatever that is, the little food stand on the beach here with the lifeguards, the taxi, the people running away. We actually have seen that photo before. And then we got another angle of the actual take occurring where we get to see all the crowd gathered on the beach slowly backing away, and then everybody starts to run away when the monster starts coming towards them. This just shows a bit more of the full story to what we talked about in the previous Godzilla x Kong news videos. Finally, for the behind the scenes of Godzilla x Kong, we have a video that comes from who knows where of an enormous rain machine spurting rain down below. It's a very mist-like rain, makes me think that this will probably be a location within the Hollow Earth. Of course, it could be on the surface world as well in Skull Island. I don't know. I'm assuming that because we don't have a ton of angles of this, it wasn't shot in a city, which is why I'm thinking it was probably in a more foresty or isolated area, which is why I'm thinking Hollow or Skull Island. And then finally, a plot synopsis was officially released for Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. This is the same plot synopsis they are using in the modern day, so I'll keep this brief. The plot synopsis states, this latest entry follows up the explosive showdown of Godzilla vs. Kong with an all-new cinematic adventure pitting the almighty Kong and the fearsome Godzilla against the colossal undiscovered threat hidden within our world, challenging their very existence and our own. The epic new film will delve further into the histories of these titans, their origins, and the mysteries of Skull Island, Island and beyond, while uncovering the mythic battle that helped forge these extraordinary beings and tied them to humanity forever. Just to quickly run through some thoughts here, because I have covered this before, it is stating that they are going up against a colossal undiscovered threat hidden within our world, which makes me think that the big bad of the movie will be the big orangutan. Now, of course, we do know that there will be multiple threats within this movie, but I'm thinking he will be the true big bad of the movie based on this plot synopsis. Also, I'm excited to see the histories of these Titans explored. I think we're going to see some flashbacks to the Great Titan War. I'm really excited to see some stuff developed with Skull Island, because I want more Skull Island. I want it to be restored, and I want it to be turned into Monster Island, damn it. I want Skull Island in the Monsterverse back. I want it back. And that's pretty much all my thoughts on that. I'm sure in the Great Titan War, we will see humans and Titans fighting alongside each other as they are in that Godzilla vs. Kong cave painting, and as we know they do based on the novelizations for Godzilla vs. Kong and Michael Dougherty's lore for Godzilla King of the Monsters and that temple from the Hollow Earth that Godzilla once occupied and lived alongside humanity. According to Dougherty's lore, which who knows if they're going to keep following up on it, there was originally a great human society on Earth that coexisted with Titans, but eventually tried to weaponize Titans against each other, and that led to no good for anybody as the Titans revolted and this big battle took place, and that's what kickstarted the Great Titan War. Who knows if that's what Wingard's going to follow up on, considering his deals with the actual Hollow Earth itself and the society that started down there, not the people on the surface world, so I don't know. Alright, that's going to do it for this one, guys. I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons on Patreon. If you want to support the Patreon, you can use the link in the description below, where you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more. Supporting the Patreon goes a really long way towards making sure I can keep making videos like this for you guys, and it really does mean a lot. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time for the next one. D-Man out.